we didn't give anybody, a Secretary of the Department of Justice, the ability to create. We only gave it to Congress through our representatives. And the Constitution said there must be one representative in Congress for every 30,000 people. That was great when we had 7 million. But now we have 337 million, so we're supposed to have 10,639 congressmen. They better build a bigger building. Because that's the only way we can have fair representation in Congress. Which means we don't have fair representation in Congress. One for every 30,000. Well, if they killed 161 million of us with a shot, well then maybe it's 5,000. Because that's half the nation. How many more are they going to kill with something else? How many planes are going to start to go down? There's already been several crashes. American Airlines just dropped a bunch of flights because they don't have enough pilots to fill them anymore. Because they forced them all to take the shot, and now their hearts won't work. So now, what do? They just lowered the FAA regulations on their EKG tests. So now they can fly with bad hearts. They lowered the qualifications. I don't know about you. I might have to buy a plane, fly myself. Because I can't trust who was flying the plane I'm in. Now with 150 of my brethren in there with them in that little cigar tube flying through the sky at 800 miles an hour, or 6, or whatever it is, at 40,000 feet with a guy with a bad heart steering? You got to be kidding me. I'm starting to get pissed. Steam's coming off. Where's this country going? What are we going to do about it? I got a great little note from somebody down in the southeast corner that says, David, do what Ann did. Start telling people to vote with their feet. It's the only vote that counts. You know who was at our office last Saturday? Ted Cruz's dad. And I fell in love with him in one day. I fell in love with him in one day. See, he came out of Cuba. And he voted with his feet against Castro. And he said, if you don't change, I'm leaving. And they wouldn't change. And he tried to change it. And people who change it get killed. So he left. And he voted with his feet. He came to America. And he had a family and a son. And his son's a pretty good man. A few things he can learn too. But I spent 25 minutes teaching his dad and said, go tell your son some things that need to happen. I had him sitting in my office. 25 minutes one-on-one, this close. I mean, I was sitting this close to him. And we had a chat. Face to face. And I love this man. He believes in God. He quotes the scripture. He knows what's right. He knows what's wrong. But he didn't know how they got paid. He didn't know the corporate structures. He didn't know that the government has more. I talked to him about the 3 branches of government: legislative, administrative, and judicial. And I said they're created separate for a reason, so there'd be a balance of power in this country. That they would be separate and distinct with different jobs. That this one would run, and don't you ever call it executive branch, because that's corporate. Our founding fathers called it administrative branch. It's not an executive branch. That came after the corporations. The legislative branch is we, the people's branch of government. We're supposed to go to our representatives in the legislature and put our grievances out, our remonstrances. And then they're supposed to do something with it. And if they don't, our job is to take it into the judicial branch. You have the problem solved. We do it with a pen and law. Except for one problem. There is no judicial courts in a state. They're all administrative courts in a state. The only judicial courts are the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court of the United States, and its extension arm, the circuit courts of the federal government. The federal circuit courts. Not the federal district courts, they're administrative under admiralty law. Okay? All state courts are administrative courts under admiralty law. What is admiralty? It's commerce. It's contract law. It's piracy. And unfortunately, our police officers, the good men and women that they are, have become nothing more than road pirates, collecting revenue based upon statutes where there's no victim. No one was injured. No crime. Now, if there is an injury, that's when we need law enforcement. We need law enforcement. We need good law enforcement. We don't need police. And here's where I disagree with a lot of the Republicans out there, because the Republican, Democrat, well, just the opposite ends of the apps. The horse, I mean. Neither one of them do what's right. Now, in my opinion, the very conservative Republicans are doing the most right. God, that's hard for me to even say that. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. We don't have statesmen anymore. Where's Thomas Jefferson? Where's John Adams? True statesmen. That's why I love Bobby Lawrence so much, even with all his flaws and his little bit of a temper. He is a modern-day John Adams, and John Adams has a temper too. Okay, he wouldn't put up with this shit. They would have been shooting already. But those guys were statesmen. They knew what was right and what was wrong, which was righteous and what was evil. And what did they do? They pledged their lives. Their fortunes, their family lives, and their sacred honor to do what they believed was right and to get away from the king. You think before the Continental Congress, you know why the military was formed in 1775? Do you know the real reason? Because like anything in government, the wheels were turning too slow. We can't wait a whole lifetime for them to make freaking decisions. So they forced them to make a decision by, okay, they'd already been talking. Look at the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers. You'll see both sides of the argument. Right? On what they were doing. They'd already been talking for a long time. They decided to set the military up first. And then maybe those guys in Congress would get off their butts and do something. And they kind of forced them to do the Declaration and stuff. Didn't it? Less than a year later, decisions were made. They've been talking about it for a decade. Same problem we have at the RT. I mean, how long does it take to make a decision? Hey, there's enough people in the room, let's vote. We've got a quorum, let's vote. But no. It has to go on for months and months and months and months. A year and a half goes by. The same decision we asked for a year and a half ago isn't made yet. Well, welcome to Congress. Decisions should be made slowly in government. But is it frustrating as all heck, right? But there are decisions that should be long thought out and frustrating. But there's other decisions that should be made that's good for the benefit of all that should be done yesterday. Get them done. Only if they benefit all without taking much out of the purse. You don't just make a decision that costs $14 trillion, Nancy. I don't know what her alcohol budget is, but I know it's a lot less than that. You see? We got to stop. That's the problem with our judicial. There's no remedy in a state court but a tort claim, and every state statute tells you that. So if you're in a state court and you're just playing defense, guess what? You have no remedy. You have to go on the offense and sue them with a tort claim. Every state statute will tell you that. Tell me a game, name one game to me that you can win just by playing defense. Is it chess? Checkers? Football? Basketball? I can't find one either. What? The hell is Pong? The only Pong I knew was back in college. Whoops! Atari. That's because the computer is playing offense too. There is no game. Don't laugh at the Pong joke. All right, I hope that never comes up again. You're banned from all future sentences. No. Three separate, distinct branches of government for a reason. You know what they did? They just combined them all. Senators were never supposed to be elected. How come you go to the polls and elect a senator? You're supposed to elect your state representatives, and the state representatives appoint senators, 2 per state. Well, they do got you voting on them. There's a reason now. Now they can buy votes, and they can get lobbying dollars. So we just corrupted all the Senate. We didn't follow, somebody somewhere made a change that didn't follow the plan of our founding fathers. There's no senator that should be elected by the people. And there's no president that is. Are you kidding me? I'd be it with Mafia in Vegas. Betting odds that all the presidents since George Washington traced their lineage there back to 2 people? What's the odds of that? To either King John or King Ferdinand of Spain. King John of England or King... I mean, What's the odds? We haven't had, even Obama, through his mother's side of the family, traced back to King John. You've never voted for a president. They like to think so. They like to win your votes. President Trump's going to be yelling at me tomorrow. That's okay. I don't care anymore. See, and he really doesn't either. If we could grow faster, then he's betting we can. See, he's placing one of the biggest bets of his life right now. That between now and the elections in 2024, that we've grown enough American state nationals to jump off the citizenship, and there won't be a vote.